a lot of quality concerns coming this year with the moisture. Color sorters are going to be big this year.
They definitely will be. You know, we're already starting to get some calls and having discussions on these. You know, and there's a lot to unpack with color sorters, and there's a lot more options on the market in today's world, and you know, and how to size it, and really the incoming foreign material, and understanding what, you know, that machine is capable of doing.
When I thought about having this conversation today with you, Jason, what I thought about was a customer that you and I worked with over the last, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks. Is a customer looking for a good capacity certified used machine. And, you know, the conversation started with what's the budget for the machine? What can I get into a color sorter? How fast we can move? But as we unpacked things and went further down the rabbit hole, it was what kind of conveyance do we need from the first line? What kind of conveyance do we need from the second line to feed it? What kind of room do we need? What's the dust collection look like? What's the installation? What's the electrical? What do we need for the, you know, the compressor package, the chiller, all that kind of stuff? And that's a big mouthful that we're going to unpack in this episode. But I think the simple part of it is you decided you want a color sorter, now what?
Yeah, there's a lot to think about there, Brent, and how to tie it in. You know, this system that we were and are working on is a little more challenging system, because it is taking the option of 2 separate lines, running it through one sorter at different times, and giving the customer the flexibility. So it's how fast is your line going to run on both lines, right? Because one was specifically for pulses and the other one was more of a grain one. A sorter is not a sorter, Brent, and there's a lot to unpack there a little bit as far as the rated capacity and the incoming foreign material.
Model selection is really, you know, how many operators are there going to be? If there's one operator and you're willing to put the time in, getting a really nice recertified machine is going to be a market leader if you're able to set it yourself. If you're a processor though that has 3 operators, 5 operators, 10 operators, you're going to want something that has preloaded recipes, that has some AI, and that has some cloud backup that you're able to see what's going on from your office. Is that right?
Yeah, there's no question that the newer sorter out there is way more user-friendly and consistent from an operator's standpoint. You're able to have multiple operators running the system the exact same way, whereas the old one, at the beginning of every single shift, Brent, the first thing the operator comes in and does is tweaks that machine on the way they like to run it. You know,
these are all headstrong guys. They come in for their shift and they go, oh, the last guy screwed it up. I've got to fix it and I've got to get it running properly.
Yes. And I don't know if anyone's really tracking the difference between the shifts to understand the amount of rejects that they're pumping out, because that reject could be dollars if it's not true rejects.
Where do I put this thing? What's the room look like?
You know, the older ones needed, honestly, Brent, a heated room. You know, you want it to be that 2-3 degrees above zero in the winter. The newer, and that was strictly more to do with LED lights. Nowadays fluorescent lights. Nowadays with LEDs, it's a lot more forgivable. You know, I've literally put these in a mobile trailer that just run outside in the winter.
And that's the difference between LEDs and fluorescent, right?
Yeah, like you need that lighting to properly detect the reject.
I'm going to field the air package, and this is from a Buehler perspective. So, you know, keep in mind that other brands are going to be different, but you're going to need a compressor package, Jason, regardless of the sorter that you go with. They're all using air, right? With a Buehler package per chute, you're going to need about 5 horse on your compressor. And then for me, anytime I'm selling a sorter, I always like to add an extra 5 horse so you have some extra air in the plant. Maybe it's cleanup. It's always good to have more than less. So, you know, in summary, You know, for our workhorse machines that are our 3-chute, 4-chute, 5-chute, if it's a 5-chute machine we're putting into a plant, you're gonna go 5 chutes times 5 horsepower and add 5. So 5 times 5, 25, adding an extra 5 horse for extra air, we're putting a 30 horse compressor package in there. You're also gonna need a chiller, you're gonna need a dryer because those ejectors need to fire dry air, and you need a receiving tank to make sure that you have, you know, some surge capacity.
Yeah, I mean, the chiller is definitely needed for infrared cameras to cool. So yeah, you definitely need the infrastructure or the auxiliary equipment to operate that. It's not just the color sorter, Brent. It's the color sorter, it's the chiller, possibly chiller if they have, you know, infrared. You know, if they don't have infrared cameras, they don't need the chiller, but they do need a dryer for the dry air. So there's a lot of extra equipment that is needed, and it's not just the color.
What about internet? Like, especially the new machines, you know, first off, if you need service, you want to have your techs able to dial in. The new cloud capabilities on Bueller's, but other brands out there, you know, you're going to want to be able to interact with it, whether you're out to lunch, whether you're on vacation, or right next to the machine.
Yeah, it definitely gives more flexibility for our service guys, you know, sitting at our shop and somebody calls and says, look, we're having some problems, and having the internet connection and being able to dial into their machine and see what's going on, it gives them a lot more flexibility and ease of mind.
Dust. You know, there's not a pile of CFMs required for this machine. A couple of different strategies you can look at on the dust side of things, Jason. One, I think, and our favorite is how do we put a segregated separate system that's just for the sorter that doesn't interfere with your main already balanced dust collection system. Or number two, it's do you have extra CFMs on your system and how do we plumb it in? But what do you think about with dust?
Yeah, dust is a big item with optical sorting because the cameras will pick up dust particles and try firing. So if you don't have a good dust system, you could be losing more product because it's firing at dust. So for me personally, I like little baghouse styles, so you're not pulling out all the warm air from that area that the compressor is generating for the sorter. You know, you're not pulling that out and just exiting the building with it. You're running it through a little baghouse system and recovering that warm air into that room.
That makes a lot of sense. Let's talk about feeding the sorter and taking away the discharge. This can be really easy in some plants that thought about that when they built the plant, and it can be quite the task, you know, depending on where you're gonna put the machine in other plants.
Yeah, you know, I think having a good surge capacity above the sorter, you know, if the other side of the plant is inconsistent or something, it allows more consistent flow through the sorter so the sorter's not starting and stopping. Granted, there are times when that's just the case that it is, Brent, and it's going to start and it's going to run out of product. You know, it really depends, but I mean, the flip side is the next side is taking it away, right? There's 3 separate departments underneath that sorter that are gonna take it away. It's gonna be the rejects, it's gonna be the good product, and then there's an overflow side to it that just particles fall. Usually we'll plumb the overflow and the rejects together. You know, some sorters, you know, you might wanna take the rejects and relift it, rerun it through another chute to recover some of your loss. I know on the newer sorters, we're probably gaining 80% of the rejects by having a rerun. So, you know, that's one thing to do the math on and see how that pencils out, whether or not you want to invest in another leg to rerun the rejects and another chute.
It can be, you know, it can be not that difficult depending on the site. I've seen lots of plants where they thought about it in advance and it's plug and play, or it can easily double the cost and double the size of your project, right? Just feeding it and taking it away. Definitely talk to somebody that doesn't just know the sorters, that knows the whole project size, can help you pencil it out, and and design it from a project perspective, not just a machine perspective, right?
Yes, 100%.
I want to do a deeper dive though, bringing us home on reruns. So you kind of mentioned that it's becoming less and less required as these machines get better. All technology advances so fast, like it's insanity. But are reruns still required? What are you telling people about that?
I think it comes down to personal business cases, and the value of, does it make sense depending on if somebody's running a plant 2 months of the year, Brent, are they going to invest another $100,000 into having a rerun? Maybe not. Somebody that's running a production facility that's running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and the amount of extra rejects, yeah, I would probably put a resort on it to recover some of the rejects.
They're going to know their business better than anyone. So I think the biggest thing from a sales perspective, which we both sell these machines and these setups, you need to make sure to poise the question at least so that they think about it, that you think about it as the customer, and that you pencil it out to see, do you need that or not, right? There's 10, 12 things, 10, 12 variables on just putting in a color sorter. You need someone to guide you through that and challenge you and make sure that you do it right for your business.
Yeah, if this is somebody's first kick at this, Brent, having a trusted partner that really walks them through all the different scenarios, it's a big investment. It's probably the biggest investment in the plant, or one of them. And having a trusted partner that actually walks you through all the different scenarios is pretty crucial at this point.
Final point I wanted to make is make sure that you're using the sorter and you have the vision, the right vision for the sorter, which is, this is not a magic machine. This is not a, hey, this is a seed cleaner. It can do everything. It's a finishing machine. It's the most expensive piece that's in your plant. It can make the world of difference, but it has a time and place to be used. It's not to be used in every situation.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's I think a lot of buzzwords when people say color sorter and think that this is a magical machine that just makes everything disappear. You will never get rid of brute force in a cleaning plant as far as screen machine density, length separator. You want all that brute force, and you need this as a polishing unit. So something that's going to clean up to get you to final grade.
And it should excite you to use those brute force machines because they last for 40 years and they cost $100,000. A sorter, it could be $500,000 and you could be upgrading it every 3 to 5 years based on the technology that's available in the market, right?
Yes.
All right, well, I think that's it for us this week. Jason, appreciate your insights on the color sorter, and we'll see you guys next week.
Cheers.